911, what is your emergency?
Units respond code 3 to a 1050 on the highway. Vehicles are blocking multiple
We're en route
lanes
to the
of travel.
hospital. Patient is currently having
We've got a
cardiac
4-alarm
arrest and has
fire
been
here.
intubated.
Send additional
Protesters are
trucks.
outside of City Hall and they are not complying with our
Out
orders
on
to
one. Hold the
disperse.
air.
In a rapidly changing world for first responders where it seems that every day the rules and norms are changing, there is one voice you can count on to give you the latest in emergency news. That is Lifeline.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I am your co-host, Gary, and today we are going to be discussing stop using crutches or things that slow you down.
Yes.
You have the skill sets needed to succeed. Don't use these crutches.
Don't use the crutches.
So there are several types of crutches that you can kind of use. Whether they're things that just kind of are there to aid and support you when things aren't working right, or a lot of times people will use these to almost supplement or sublimate for their actual skills that they should have.
Yep.
And this is what we mean when we say stop using them, because develop those skills and trust in those skills, you'll work a lot faster.
Yep.
So I think the first one we kind of want to talk about is one that anyone in a telecommunication center is going to be aware of, and that would be playback. So playback, basically, you can, it's just like the name implies, you click on a button and you play back the last audio that was happening, either on the phone or more likely on the radio, to kind of hear what happened. And that is just a really slow process. And you gotta stop it.
It is, and I would say it's really, I say more dangerous. And I can say this out of experience, because as a baby dispatcher myself, I had to learn the hard way how this thing can become a crutch. Mm-hmm. So what typically happens is you're trucking right along and you think, they're talking, you're talking, and then something happens and you don't hear the last thing that was said.
Sure.
And typically with newer dispatchers, they lack the confidence to just key up and go, who said that and what did you say?
Yeah.
So they are so worried about sounding or appearing or coming across as less than confident or capable. So what do? They play back the last transmission.
Mm-hmm. Scroll back to find it. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's the transmission. Let me move the cursor to about where I think it happened. Let me hit play. Mm-hmm. Oop, too far. I need to redo it.
Yep, and while that's happening, someone else says something.
Yep, and then the snowball begins.
And then the snowball begins. And so now you're trying to backtrack. You're trying to get back to the first thing you missed, and then the second thing you missed. Meanwhile, the radio is still happening.
It doesn't stop.
It does not stop. And there's another crutch that usually introduces itself right about there, the dreaded pen and paper. Mm-hmm. Because when you're playing, okay, wait, he said that, and now I'm trying to, okay. And before you know it, you are so far behind.
Yes. Let's first, I guess, talk about the playback, because I think that's definitely one of them that is like, because you're using the radio to talk to somebody, and you may have misunderstood what they said or misheard it or didn't hear it, or for whatever reason it just didn't process correctly in your brain and you don't know what to do. You have a really cool device that is Marconi helped invent it, and it's a radio.
Shocking.
It's like a phone,
right,
but old school.
Yeah.
So just key up and say what, repeat your last, or, 10-9, or
whatever that looks
go
like.
Go ahead with your traffic again. Because taking the time to go back to playback and find whatever you were trying to find is just going to waste so much time for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make you look good.
It does not.
When in 5 minutes you're now 32 steps behind where you need to be.
Yep.
They're going to know there's some problem.
Oh, yeah, because and most likely the thing that you're trying so desperately not to allow it to be known that you missed is a very small thing.
Yeah. It's like one letter in a license plate.
I mean, seriously, even if you have to say, I got boy, Robert, Sam, David, what was the last?
Yeah.
They respect that and appreciate that more. Because think about it. If you're talking to someone and you're telling a story, right? And your friend says, wait, back up. You said this and they said that. And then what happened? Do you get upset with them?
No.
No. You start where they said they missed it and you pick up right there.
Yeah. And I mean, everyone knows there's tons of things that can interfere. There could be a barking dog in the background, a loud passing car.
Yeah.
There could be sunspots that cause the radio to, glitch out.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, you might have to just, get a replay, or you just didn't catch it. It's fine.
It happens.
There's no reason to hamstring yourself by trying to, go in and find it. There are uses for it, like if somebody keeps up screaming and like they can't repeat what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Using the playback can be a useful tool. But for sort of standard, day-to-day things that you're going to be doing, just keep and say, tell me again what you're trying to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. I think where I used to tell the trainees a lot is don't talk at them, talk to them. And I think where the playback or the crutch that is the playback comes in is they forget to talk to the first responder on the other end of the radio. If you're talking to someone, it's not going to be as embarrassing for you to ask them to repeat what it was that they just said. They're not going to be angry, I don't think. And even if they are, depending on what it is you need to know what you need to know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they can be upset if they want.
Okay.
They're usually not going to be because, they're going to appreciate you're trying to get the correct information.
Right. And even if they are, they're frustrated is probably at the circumstances that they're in the middle of, not so much you.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the, guy in their face yelling at them some unkind 4-letter words rather than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, just, don't be afraid of it. Like, the whole point of the radio is just to be a piece of communication technology. Yep. And to not use it is, well, it's just silly.
Yeah. It's a crying shame.
Mm-hmm. Now, you brought up another good point when you were talking about paper. Yeah. So, many, many years ago in the dark ages, things would be done on paper. Like you'd, write the call out on paper, where people were on paper. But, over the last 40-something years, computers have become more and more part of the job. And pretty much, I think every agency now heavily relies on them.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to write things out on paper to keep notes of what you need to do, all that's doing is literally at least doubling the work you need to do.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to input it into the computer at some point, and you've wasted all this time writing it out. And typically people type much faster than they write.
Right. And while you're writing, guess what's still happening? The radio is still happening. And then when you go to take it all from paper into the system, they're still talking to you. And so you have to type that, and then try to read your scribble-scrabble that you wrote in haste, because now you're playing the playback. So you got one hand on the playback, hand on the pen and paper, and you're still trying to work the radio, and you're losing the battle.
And quickly, too.
And before you know it, because especially the newer you are, your retention isn't there yet. Yeah.
I mean, like, you're going to remember a couple of steps, but it's not
10 or 15.
Not 10 or 15. And you're not going to remember who had, what return on what, and who needed a tow and who needed an ambulance. And it's just going to get really tangled up.
Yep.
And there are times when chaos does happen on the radio. Say there's like a flood and an officer's car gets swept away. That's going to be just a chaotic mess, and you've got to kind of figure that out. But for the most day-to-day kind of stuff, like, just don't let the chaos get there.
Yeah.
stay on top of it. Work the radio as fast as you can safely and accurately work it.
Yeah. Depend on your training.
Yeah.
Your training is there. I don't care if you have a structured program or don't, most agencies are not going to just throw you to the wolves, right? They've laid a foundation and they've built upon it, and now you are released, or you've been on your own for a little while now. I think you sell yourself short. I think when you rely on these types of crutches, because you don't find out just how good you can be or just how good you are already. You don't stretch yourself, and then you don't grow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't grow into the job.
Yeah, and you need to.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't like, so why people do that, I guess, is because they don't want to look amateurish on the radio or to come across that way.
Yeah.
But, the most veteran, police dispatchers, fire dispatchers, EMS dispatchers, they're going to key up if they're not clear on something. Because, frankly, a lot of times you just don't have time to try and look good. You just have to do the job.
I simply don't have the time.
Yeah. We're not here to look good.
No.
It's like in one of our previous episodes, we talked about like how Hollywood gets it wrong.
Yeah.
We're here to actually just do the job, do it quickly and accurately.
Yep.
And there's going to be mistakes made. It's 100% okay to make mistakes in the job. You just need to know how to fix them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you try and go back to like make it look good, you're wasting time that you need to be using elsewhere. Because as you said, like usually it's the newer dispatchers that are going to be doing this, and there's just no reason to spend the time doing that when you could just move on to the next thing.
And I, and of course I'm the doom and gloom, if you will, in that I'm looking 6 months, a year, or longer into the future of the new dispatcher who does not yet know that they are creating a habit.
Yes.
And they are creating a dependency on this thing that will not serve them because, wait for it, what if it breaks?
Yeah.
And now you have an underdeveloped ear. You have you don't have the stamina. You don't have the bandwidth to retain information that you would normally, as the longer you do it, the more you can absorb and retain. But you are stunting your own growth with this thing. It is a tool. It is not designed to do the work of time and repetition and practice. It's not supposed to take the place of it.
Yeah, and ultimately it can't. Like
No.
I remember we were having some work done on the operations floor, and they accidentally turned off a breaker, and
I remember that.
yeah, like 9 dispatch consoles just went down immediately. Boom.
Yep.
Everything's gone. You have no power. Grab that handy talkie and start talking to the
let's
officers.
go.
And like, those types of things will happen, and you've got to figure out like, you have to have built up the skills in order to feel confident.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but at some point you have to take the training wheels off and
Absolutely.
start to trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you don't, you're never going to ride.
No, and it's not, and it's for your own good that we say this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like we try to give it to you straight and
Absolutely.
not sugarcoat things.
Nope.
So
I don't own any sugar, Gary.
Nope. No sugar here. Like another thing that is, I think, used a lot is like the radio identifiers. So
Yes.
you can look and see who like keyed up, and at least in our agency, it won't say the name, but it'll give you like the badge number, and then you can take that and look them up in the system who has that badge number.
Yeah.
Instead of just keying up and saying, last unit, go with your call sign, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Whereas, this other way will add on a lot more time.
It does.
All because, again, I think it's really an image issue.
It is. It's a perception problem. A lot of times and I know that this is not browbeating or anything. It's the reality, because I remember.
Yeah.
It's been, I said I've been doing it since God was a boy, but the truth is I do remember that far back. I remember not wanting to appear less than capable.
Yeah.
Well, let me help you. If you've been doing this 6 months, a year and a half,
You are less than capable.
it's the truth.
Yeah.
You say it all the time, bronze. We're looking for bronze dispatchers when you first come out of training.
Yeah.
We're not looking for Olympians. It's not going to happen. And no amount of radio identifiers or using the playback more than you should is going to mask that.
No. It's only going to make it worse, actually.
It is going to put a glaring spotlight on it, because I promise you, they know.
Yeah, like when I had trainees, I would often either cover up or turn off the radio screen, so they couldn't do that, because it is a tool, and it is a good tool to have, but if you use it too much and become dependent on it, your radio ear will never develop.
Absolutely.
It'll atrophy.
Yep.
And then you're never going to be able to do it, because the difference between a dispatcher that is like really struggling and just trying to keep their head above water, and the one that's, sitting back, reading a book, reading a newspaper, crocheting, what have you, is really just the difference in tenths of seconds, knowing how to save, a quarter second here on this step,
Yep.
half a second on this step,
Yep.
500 times.
Yep.
And one of the things that they don't do is waste the time to go back and check who keyed up or play the the recorder again.
Nope.
Because there's just, there's no reason to do that. It's
And-
so strange.
And it's true, because, take myself, for instance. And I have wonderful CTOs throughout my early days who did not allow it. When I say didn't allow it, they didn't suggest it. It was not an option.
Right.
And, of course, I thought they were just mean at the time, because I didn't know. But it was the best possible thing they could have done for me, because if I were to sit down on the radio right now, I look at it as a tool, because that's what they taught me. They taught me that it is a tool, and it has use. Of course, it can come in handy. I've had times when
Sure,
I'm like,
yeah.
what in the Sam Hill did he say? But it wasn't the traffic stop.
Right.
It wasn't something that might compromise their safety while I'm trying to go back and seem like I'm better than I am. And I probably went all around the world to say that. But, because I was thinking about, I almost said her name. I almost said the CTO's name that had the ruler that just used to sit there, and she'd be like, whack, no.
This was a long time ago.
A long time ago.
That probably won't happen to you today if you're
Back,
interested.
back before HR was able to do
Yeah.
the things that HR is able to do now.
When they were using, smoke signals to, signal the officers.
That's really funny. Yeah, okay. The bigger concern that is more than just how you look to the officers, it's are you putting them at risk because you didn't hear the thing that you needed to hear? And you didn't take the time to find out what you missed. And now the next thing has happened. And I'm not talking about you just missed another name to run. I'm talking
right.
about now, the last officer, while you're back there fishing for what he or she said, now this one is in the thick of it. And you don't hear that either.
Yeah. Because you're either going to be sound blind to, the one that's keying up now because you're so focused on
Trying to remember, trying to hear what you missed.
Yeah, or you're going to forget what the one before asked because something big just happens.
Yep.
And, it's putting yourself at a disadvantage, and it's really digging a hole for yourself that you
Yeah.
don't need to dig.
Yeah.
These technologies that we have, they're great, and they oftentimes expedite a lot of the things we do.
Sure.
Like, you don't have to run down to Central Records to use the teletype machine anymore. You
Nice.
can do that right at each of the consoles. But if you end up relying on them too much, they cannot be a replacement for the person sitting in the chair.
Absolutely.
And technology will get better, and there may be one day when AI overlords are running the dispatch
My
centers.
goodness, yeah.
But that day is not today.
It is not here.
No. And so there's no way to replace that by using these means. You have to develop them yourself, and you can only develop them by sometimes looking like a fool if you want.
Yeah.
But it's going out there and saying, I didn't get that. I need you to repeat that. Or
Yeah.
who were you? I didn't hear who you are.
And you know what? We might end up, because I don't know how long we've been going, but I tell you what, there's probably 3 or 4 more crutches that I'm just thinking of off the top of my head.
Sure, what you got?
The map is one.
Okay, mapping.
The map is an absolutely wonderful tool, but you can create a crutch out of it.
Sure. So in a lot of agencies, the police cars and ambulances and fire trucks, they send real-time or near real-time location data to the computer-aided dispatch system to put them on a map, little pins on a map, moving around all by themselves, so you know where they're at. But it can become a crutch if you utilize that more than what is actually being said.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have had, let's take a traffic stop, because police is where we live,
Sure.
right? So to our EMS and fire peeps, I apologize, but this is where we live. So let's take the traffic stop. You didn't hear the location on the traffic stop. I don't know how many times in our very own center, I see it, it just makes my eye twitch. I see them zone in on the map. They didn't hear what the officer said, and they will not ask what was said. They will not ask for clarification. They go immediately to the map, as if the map is the end-all, be-all.
Yeah. Again, it's a tool. So, like, when I'm dispatching, sometimes, like, if I have a street that I'm not familiar with, like I don't know how to spell it, like Ptarmigan or something.
Ptarmigan, yeah.
If you zoom over to it, starts with a P.
Right.
Makes no sense. But, you don't, again, that's something there to aid and assist you. It's not
Right.
to replace you.
Yes, that is, where he is or she is. You have an idea that they're probably off a breaker and they're probably off Ptarmigan, because
Yeah.
it all is, you got an idea. And the fecal matter has not hit the whirly blades, so you're
Yeah.
not, it's not so bad if you use that to aid you in how in the world do I actually spell this doggone street.
Yeah.
That's different than foot pursuit. I've got one running and you don't even bother to ask. You just zoom in on the map immediately.
Right. You need to know that location over the air, because not only will you hear that, all the other cops in the on the channel are going to hear it as well,
Yeah.
so that they can start.
Yeah.
And that needs to be known. It can't just be something that you're spending 30 seconds trying to look up, because these guys are going to be starting for that location.
When it's so simple to say, if they say, hold me out on, I don't breaker and
Yeah.
well, I copied breaker.
Yeah.
What was the cross?
Yeah.
How simple is that? Mm-hmm. So easy. So-and-so, I'm clear out on traffic. I got the license plate. I got the first part of the street. What was the last part? I'm done. Mm-hmm. Whereas the playback,
Yeah.
You're
It's gonna
still searching.
Yeah. And also, it's a kind of a check, because if, the officer's saying, like, I'm going to foot pursuit, I'm at blah, 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 and you're like, what was your location? And they're not able to answer you, then you kind of know that things are not working out well. And, that's sort of your instant status check.
it really is.
Whereas if you're spending 30 seconds playing back what they said,
Yep.
that's 30 seconds that
Gone
in a critical moment.
Yeah. You can always slow down, but you can't get back those seconds that you lose.
No. And I mean, I guess sometimes people worry that they might get in trouble for performance issues, maybe why they use that a lot. But as a supervisor, like, I understand what you're doing as a dispatcher.
Yeah.
And while we can, Monday morning quarterback, hey, next time you could do this and you could do A, B, and C, that might be more helpful. It's not like I'm going to, say you ask their location twice, so you're obviously not paying attention. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't, no. Because your supervisors have all been there.
Mm-hmm.
They've all been exactly where you are. So they know the difference between asking for additional information or clarifying versus they know what it sounds like when you're not paying attention. They know what it looks like when you're not paying attention. They know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you don't need, I would say don't concern yourself with that.
No. I mean, you just really, especially if you're new, as you said, like 6 months, a year and a half, spend your time, especially then, developing your skills, because you're going to be laying the foundation for the rest of your career.
Yep.
And you want to build good habits then, because bad habits are tough to break, and they're harder to replace with good habits than just starting off with the good habits.
Absolutely. And those it may seem hard in the moment, but like you said, they will save not only your bacon but an officer's bacon at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because that knee jerk, I didn't get that. What was it? I mean, you just respond. There's no lag time.
Mm-hmm.
And the seconds make all the difference.
Yeah, it's an instant answer on whatever query you're looking for.
Yeah.
And just go for it. There's like the whole point of having a radio is to do that. And like we were kind of discussing before the show, like sending like messages over the system.
That's the other one.
Yeah, because so many systems, computer-aided dispatch systems, you can send a little email to people. And, that way you don't have to tie up, the radio. But how many times is that used when it ought not to be used?
It ought not to be used.
Yeah.
There goes that other eye twitching again.
Yeah. Both of them are just fluttering away right now.
I'm in a fix because I don't know how many times I have sat down behind newer dispatchers and holy mother of crap, they have asked for a backup in a message. And I'm like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you know that they saw it?
Yeah. They could be in the John.
They could be anywhere. Yeah. They could have walked to the dumpster to throw something away. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you know? And what logical reason could you have to use what should be a tool to... what would you? Why? I don't even have a reason.
Yeah, and because also you're broadcasting it out, so everybody hears it, so everybody knows. Okay, that unit over there, they've got a backup going to them. Whereas if you're just messaging it out, like that's not going to be as well disseminated to the troops in the area.
No, and then it becomes, wait for it, officer safety.
Yep.
Whether it be, and I don't know how it works with the fire trucks and with the ambulances, but I can't imagine it would be all that different.
Yeah.
The principle is there. The tools are there for a reason, and it's just really, really easy to slip into that crutch mode, and you don't even know that it's happening until you wake up one day and you're dependent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the sad
It's like
part.
a drug.
Shocking.
I know.
Yeah.
But yes, so try and get rid of those crutches. A lot of these things are tools and technologies used to aid and assist you, to make you, better at your job, to be a safety net for you.
Mm-hmm.
But they shouldn't be the primary reliance that you use.
Yep.
That needs to be you. You need to trust in your skills and build your skills if they're not there.
Yep.
But become, the types of dispatchers that you need to be in order to work quickly, accurately, and safely.
Yep.
And keeping the training wheels on the bicycle ain't going to cut it.
Nope. Won't do it.
Well, I think that's all the time we have today. We appreciate you tuning in and listening. From all of us here at Lifeline 911 Podcast, I'm Gary.
I'm Erica.
And we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911 Podcast. If you have any questions about the topics we discussed today, or if there's something specific you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us your questions at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Stay safe out there. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.